Hey guys, welcome back to the JP podcast. We're excited today. We're going to dive into a different topic than we've done in the past. And we have Andy and Jodi Fisher with Your Real Estate Planners Group, powered by Keller Williams.
That's right.
Did I get that right?
That's right.
This is our first take, by the way. We did not do 6 takes before this, but we're excited to have you on, man. Thanks for coming. And Jodi's not on camera, but she's here in the office today, so thank you as well for coming, Jodi. And we're excited to jump into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
So tell me just a little bit about yourself and how you got into this section of real estate at this time, and then we'll dive into what it is.
Yeah, so I've been in the real estate planner community for about 2 years now. And so we're a little bit different than your traditional transactional real estate agent. We really try and help people with building, protecting, and transferring their generational wealth that they built through real estate, and create a plan to transfer that wealth when inevitable comes knocking on their door. I've been a realtor for 17 years. I had a brand for literally 16 of those years. And about a year ago, we decided to rebrand ourselves as a real estate planner. My coach and mentor, Danny Ara, he is in Honolulu, Hawaii. He's been doing this for nearly 20 years and didn't realize that nobody else in the nation was really helping people with creating a plan of action. So when he came and introduced this community to Keller Williams, we have an event called Mega Camp here in Austin, Texas. And it was like somebody reached into my soul and touched it and said, "This is what you're meant to do." And I looked at Jodi and I said, this is our thing. Like, this is what we're going to do.
Why did it impact you that way?
I mean, it's just because nobody's doing this. No realtors are out there helping people figuring out, like, what does senior relocation look like for them? What does, using a 1031 exchange to protect your tax liabilities and transfer to another, property. Nobody's talking about Delaware statutory trust at all.
So you saw it as an opportunity to help people.
Absolutely. I want to I feel like I need a giant megaphone and scream it from the top of the Frost Bank building and let everybody in the Austin area know about these things.
So what is the difference between just selling real estate and helping somebody plan?
So the difference between selling real estate and being a real estate planner is a traditional transactional real estate agent is going to show up to your home and they're going to say, "Hey, I'm ready to sell this house. Look at all of the great things I can do to help get your home sold." And then they're going to sell your house, and then 6 months down the road when you're filing your taxes, you're going to have a huge tax liability bill because of all the capital gains taxes that you had from either selling that raw land that you had, or the family farm that you had, inherited home that mom and dad, gifted that before they passed away, things like that. And we look at it as, how do we close that door on the tax liabilities? How do we make sure that families don't fight over what mom and dad left them? And so, instead of saying, here, you've got $25,000 in tax liabilities that you got to pay Uncle Sam, let's figure out a way to make sure that you don't have to do that. So
you guys are bringing more of a tax strategy to real estate.
Part of it, yeah. I mean, it's more of a holistic approach to look at your real estate as the largest concentration of wealth that you probably have. I mean, everybody has 401ks and, IRAs and all of the stuff to, save money. But they don't look at their real estate holdings, especially financial planners. They don't see that as a huge chunk of somebody's wealth, where we do. We actually work with a lot of financial planners, trust and elder care, attorneys in general. We work with a lot of CPAs, because a lot of these guys don't know about these programs that are out there. And all we're trying to do is make sure that we can help somebody understand, hey, we're not trying to do anything illegal or anything like that. We're showing you things that are actually available to you to take advantage of, and then helping them figure out what is your plan, because there's one thing I've learned is we're all going to, pass away someday. And literally 70% of Americans don't have a plan in place on how are they going to transfer that wealth that they've built to the next generation or their heirs.
So are you guys primarily looking to, do you market yourself to individuals or do you market yourself to financial professionals?
I mean, we work with everybody. So we want to help. So if you're a financial, professional and you don't know about what we do, we would love to sit down, take you to lunch, find out more about their business, more about learning about our business, and how can we be a resource to them. So that way, when they're talking to their clients and saying, hey, you've got all of these real estate holdings over here, let's figure out what the proper way is to create a plan, either to sell them or gift them to your heirs, or what's the plan about that?
Okay.
So,
and is that more of like just passive as like you guys network with people, or do you actually target financial professionals?
No. So, I mean, we call that our bench, so we have a bench of like professionals that we are in business with that we would like to say, when an individual comes over to us that has real estate holdings and we sit down and actually create a plan on what does that look like for them, then it's like, hey, do you have a financial planner?
Got it. So then you start working with their team.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. So you sit down with me, and am I a younger person, older person, most common?
So we tend to work with the baby boomer plus generation.
Okay.
The baby boomers are literally the largest concentration of wealth ever in history. Right now with $70 trillion that they're sitting on, and they're getting ready to transfer that wealth to the next generation or their heirs, or kids of that generation. Some people, with Alzheimer's, getting old, losing cognitive abilities, things like that. That's when their kids start getting involved, and they don't know, what am I supposed to do with mom and dad's stuff?
Sure.
So we really try and sit down and figure out what is that plan.
Okay.
And that's where we want to be educators and not just, hey, I'm the real estate agent, I'm going to sell your stuff. Like, that's not us.
So let's say that I'm like 55, 60, 65.
Right.
At what point do you engage people where they should start having a plan?
I mean, I think that if you're 24 years old, you should have a plan. Like, if you're 35 years old, 40, whatever age, you should start making a plan now.
Okay.
I think, you could drive home from the grocery store and get in a car accident and not be here tomorrow. It's about, what does it look like for you to make sure that you have a peace of mind of what's going to happen when I'm gone.
Okay.
So we work with attorneys to create like wills and trusts. We also do probate. So if somebody did not have a will or trust in place, like, what does that look like to make sure that all the boxes are checked off? So
let's, and we do insurance and investments here. So we're all about planning. The sooner you plan, the better the plan is.
Exactly.
Right. The whole saying, most people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan.
Exactly.
And it's a lot harder for us when we're trying to sit down with somebody that's 50, that's never saved money, doesn't have a plan, because they have less time for their money to grow. They have less time for a lot of things in life. Things are more expensive, life insurance, long-term care, etc. So let's say I'm your typical client.
Yeah.
55, 60, 65.
You're probably in your like 70s, 80s. You're tired of being a landlord. You're maybe thinking about transitioning to either, all my kids are gone. I'm tired of this big house. All the maintenance is getting too much for me. I don't know what to do with this place. It's 2 stories. I need to move to maybe a smaller house, something that's single story. Maybe you want to move to a community and be with, active adults that are in the same situation that you're in. Things like that.
Okay.
We call them the terrible T's. Like, I have a bunch of real estate properties. I don't want to be a landlord anymore. I have all of these, terrible T's, which is tenants, trash, termites, toilets, and all of the other things that go along with being a landlord.
Tenants, trash, termites, toilets, and
all the other things.
And all the other things. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm an older person, and for somebody watching this, we'll talk to the younger person too here
absolutely.
in a second.
Yeah.
But let's say I have assets.
Right.
And I've invested in real estate. I own 3-4 properties. My personal home, maybe a couple small duplexes, fourplexes. What's my biggest challenge as I'm getting older now?
I mean, that's the thing. It's like you're at the point where I don't want to deal with the hassle or the headache anymore.
Okay.
Maybe you still want that passive income. You've been getting that mailbox money for years off of these properties. So we sit down with our clients. We look at them. We run what's called an asset performance test.
Okay.
We see how these properties are actually performing for their clients. Right now in Central Texas, your assets aren't performing as well as they used to. And that's because our taxes have gone up so much in a short amount of time, but you've got a lot of equity in them. So
that's a powerful concept or problem right there.
That is
because
exactly.
a lot of people aren't thinking about that. But yes,
Yeah.
When we bought our home here, December 2022, I think the appraised value on it was like we were paying taxes at around $1 million.
Right.
And as soon as we bought the house and it got calculated, however they do it every year now.
Yeah.
They all of a sudden it's $2.6 million house because that's what we ended up paying for it right around there. And now taxes shot up huge.
Yeah.
So, and the biggest complaint that I've heard from people is how fast taxes are increasing. So if I am a landlord and I have rental property, a lot of my profit or my free cash flow is being eaten up by my increase in taxes every year.
Exactly.
Okay, so now I have an asset. While I have a lot of equity in there, it's worth a lot more. Maybe it's paid off or I owe very little on it.
Yeah.
I'm not cash flowing as much anymore.
Right. Exactly.
So you guys run that test. You said asset performance test?
We call it an asset performance test. So we look at what the market value is versus what you're spending on that property each year, including those taxes. And then, right now we're seeing on average around 3 to 5%.
Can you give me like an example for somebody watching? Like,
like let's say you got a duplex.
Okay.
You bought it when it was roughly $200,000.
Okay.
Now it's worth probably around $500,000. You're paying taxes on that $500,000, and so your tax liability has shot up from being, let's just say, on average in Texas it's around 2%. So you're paying before $6,000 a year in taxes.
Okay.
Now you're paying $15,000 in taxes.
Okay.
The rent versus the reward. Your return on investment is not as high as it used to be.
Okay.
And so, so when we do the calculations and we have an actual formula that we sit down and we run it for every single client that we work with. We'll run it on your primary residence to make sure, you don't owe any liability there, and also on your assets in general. So when we figure out that asset is underperforming, which believe it or not, a lot of those are around like 1%. Some people are negative cash flow on those, and it's because of their mortgage and the taxes and stuff like that. So we can say, how does this make you feel that you're losing money on this, or that you're not gaining as much money as you thought you were, versus and that's the thing about being a part of the Keller Williams real estate planner community is we have agents, roughly 500 nationwide. So we know where properties are making you the most amount of money. So if, let's just say that duplex that's $500,000 here, what if you sold that? And what if we helped you buy, 5 properties at $100,000 in Sioux City, Iowa, where you're getting 10 or 15% return on your investment? Wouldn't that make you feel better?
Got it. So you're taking a property where I'm at 2%. You said roughly 2% in taxes, right?
2% taxes is what we see on average.
Okay. So if I'm at $4,000, then it jumps up to 10. That's $6,000, $500 less in cash flow.
Yeah.
And so you'll come in and you'll say, hey, so you're looking at what is the leftover positive cash flow, right? So rents minus, if I have a mortgage payment, taxes, and insurance.
Yeah.
Right? What's left over? Right. And then you're dividing that free cash flow into what? Into the total money I have invested in there to get that percentage?
So the calculation's a little more complicated.
Okay.
So I don't actually have one of my worksheets with me, but that's the thing is like we plug in all of the numbers. We look at it from every angle. Okay. And then, when we sit down and we discuss and at a planning session for our clients, that's when we present the asset performance test
Okay.
to them and show them like what is your actual return on investment. Plus, actually having some money in reserves.
Okay.
A lot of people don't take that into consideration as well. You have vacancy loss, you have repairs on the property, things like that. So,
Okay.
make a little sense.
Yeah. So if I put in, what does somebody put into an investment property? 20%.
On average, yeah. I mean, we see 20-25% is about the average on what somebody puts into a property.
So you guys will take the free cash flow, you'll divide it into what I invested into the property, so I'm getting my return on investment, and then you'll look at other properties around the country where I could get a better cash flow out of reducing my taxes.
Correct.
Now,
So and also we also have an option called a Delaware Statutory Trust.
Okay.
So a lot of people don't know what that is, and financial planners that actually deal with Delaware Statutory Trust aren't allowed to talk about it.
So I don't know what it is. So can you explain?
Yeah. So are you familiar with what a REIT is?
Yeah, real estate investment trust.
So a Delaware.
So for somebody that doesn't know what a REIT is,
yeah.
What is a
So
REIT?
it's basically you are a fractional owner in an investment property with other investors. A REIT is basically, let's say you've got $100,000 and you're going to buy a $35 million apartment complex. So you're going to go in with another group of people to purchase that, and that you're now a fractional owner of
Got
that.
it. So if we raise all this money, whatever my percentage is of the total money raised for this real estate transaction, that's the percentage of that property that I own.
Now, the thing about a REIT is it's not recognized by the IRS as being able to use a 1031 exchange into. And the difference is with the Delaware Statutory Trust, it is. So a Delaware Statutory Trust is basically the same as a REIT, but it's recognized by the 1031 exchange. So you can sell your investment property here and then do a 1031 exchange into a Delaware Statutory Trust. And the great thing about a Delaware Statutory Trust is it's completely passive income. So you get appreciation, on the property. You get to claim depreciation on your taxes. You get an income monthly from the whatever is that property is. So a Delaware Statutory Trust is typically like Amazon warehouses. ESPN headquarters is a Delaware Statutory Trust. Storage communities, storage units, apartment complexes, hotels, things like that, A-plus properties that you're investing in. And the great thing is it's mailbox money. You don't ever have to worry about, collecting rent from anybody, because most of these places that you're investing in, they do a lot of due diligence to make sure that there's going to be some kind of return on your investment. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So take it, we'll dissect that.
Yeah.
For somebody that is not familiar with real estate and they're watching this, like, what the hell did that guy just say?
I know,
right?
and I didn't even find out about these until a year ago, and I've been doing real estate for 17 years, and I was like, why hadn't I ever heard of this?
Sure.
So it's pretty amazing.
So a 1031. So I bought a house.
Right.
And we'll go back a step. If I own, we live in our house. Right. And it goes up in value.
Correct.
That's what you mentioned in terms of appreciation.
Correct.
Right. And that's equity.
Correct.
Right. So I bought it at $200,000. It's worth $500,000.
Correct.
So I have $300,000 in equity.
Right.
If that's my primary residence, when I sell it, do I have to pay taxes on the $300,000?
So according to Tax Code 121 with the IRS, on your primary residence only, you get a tax-free deduction for a single individual of $250,000. For a married couple, it's $500,000. Okay. And so anything above and beyond that, you will have to pay capital gains tax, unless we sit down and we strategically figure out how can we maybe eliminate or mitigate that liability.
Okay, so we'll go back to that scenario. I bought it for $2, it's worth $5.
Right.
We have $300,000 in equity.
Correct.
Since I get $250,000,
are you single or are you married? So $500,000. You don't have to pay any taxes on that.
Okay, so we sell the house. We got $300,000. It's sitting there. We put it in something.
Yep. You can roll it into a new residence. You can do whatever you want with it.
Okay.
It's your money.
Now, let's say that was an investment property. We don't live in it.
Right.
So we bought it for $2. It's worth $5. We sell it. We now have $300,000 of profit.
Correct. Right.
Does that person, again, a new person watching this, do I have to pay taxes on $300,000?
Absolutely. Yeah. And
Okay.
you will pay capital gains tax on that appreciation, that, what you've made, that $300,000. Now, you can use the 1031 tax code, which allows you to transfer that profit to another investment property.
Okay.
You can sell it. You can sell one property and buy 3 properties. You can sell, 3 properties and buy one. It's all kinds of combination. It's what they consider like property.
Okay.
And it's crazy the things that are considered like property. So if you sold a single family home, you could go buy a shopping complex with it. If you sold a duplex, you can go buy raw land. You can also buy mineral rights.
Okay.
You can buy mineral rights is also considered like property. So these are things that you can use the 1031 exchange for.
Okay.
And of course, I'm not a CPA, so
Sure.
I don't play one on TV. Go talk with the CPA about this, but
This is not tax advice. Disclaimer.
I'm just explaining what I've learned and how to use these things.
So I'm an investor. I have these couple properties I bought.
Yeah.
And I have all the T's. I have tenants, trash, termites, toilets.
Yeah.
Tenant calls, people.
All the things.
And I'm older. My wife and I don't want to be having to deal with the problems, the overhead, something happens.
Yeah.
So I have these properties. We have some money.
Right.
And we just decide we want to sell everything and simplify our life.
Right.
And now I have to pay capital gains taxes on all of this.
Right.
Or I can do a 1031 exchange.
Yeah.
And consolidate it or move it into multiple.
Yep.
Like you said, take 1 into 3 or 3 into 1.
Right. Or buy a Delaware statutory trust.
And if I was to go put it into a REIT,
A Delaware statutory trust. You can't put it in a REIT.
A normal REIT.
You can't do that.
I'd have to pay capital gains
Correct.
taxes.
Yes.
So the way that I avoid paying capital gains taxes is the 1031 exchange.
Yep.
And one of the options is a Delaware
statutory trust.
Yeah. Could I just so if I go buy an apartment building, I take 3 into 1, I still have the same problem with tenants and all those other things.
Correct. So there are some, and that's the thing. We've actually helped our clients even come up with ways that we can, let's say they have all of these properties, but they want to buy their dream house with it. Well, we sold their properties. They had 4 different investment properties. And so we found their dream home. And what we did is we helped them purchase their dream home. But the thing is, they couldn't move into it right away. So we rented it out for 2 years. And if by, IRS code, if you can change the intent after 2 years and a day. Okay. So basically we rented it out for 2 years, and then 2 years and like a week later they moved into it and they're living in their dream home.
Okay.
So it's all about using the proper planning to make sure that you can utilize the system how it's meant to be used.
Okay, got it. And so the biggest reason for people, because you're dealing with people, again, the older person,
right,
70s, tired of tenants.
Yeah.
So I want to put it into a project that allows me for it to be a 1031 exchange.
Yes.
But does not require all the management, headache, stress.
Right.
And the REIT would accomplish that, but it doesn't pass the tax requirement.
Correct.
So that's where the Delaware Statutory Trust does.
Right.
And so now I can take all my equity, and instead of paying capital gains, I put that into another investment.
Correct.
Okay. And then that
swap until you drop is what we use. Is basically you're swapping. You're basically kicking the tax, what you owe the tax man down the road.
Okay. Do I have to be an accredited investor to invest in a Delaware statutory trust?
Yep. So
and what is an accredited investor?
Accredited investor is somebody that has a net worth of roughly $1 million. So it's give or take. Sometimes they can make an exception if you're a little bit below. Okay. But a financial planner will run that for you and decide. And so they look at everything. They look at how much do I have in my 401ks, IRAs, you know, if you have any futures or anything like that, and your investment properties. Your primary residence does not count.
Okay, so
that.
all other assets besides primary residence.
Correct.
And you did real estate for 17 years.
Yeah.
Before you started doing the
16. So
16.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this has been the last 2 years.
So I started. I started learning about this 2 years ago.
Okay.
I became a certified real estate planner about 1 year ago.
Okay, got it.
So
as a realtor, you were helping people purchase properties, purchase investments.
Yeah, selling, purchasing, all of that.
Okay. But you weren't adding this service or this education.
No,
at the
I didn't
time
know
of the
about it.
sale.
Yeah.
Okay. And were you primarily in residential or commercial or?
I primarily do residential. I am a licensed broker. I mean, so basically I have kind of like my master's degree in real estate, but I don't own my own company. I like being with Keller Williams.
I got it. Yeah, you told me
Yeah.
you appreciate it. Yeah. Okay. So now I'm older. You sit down with me. Hey, do you have a plan, George, on what you're going to do?
Yeah.
Well, we have the cash flow. We want to keep the cash flow.
Right.
But we'd obviously like less headaches.
Right.
So then that's when you present those options.
So, I mean, that's when we dive into more about who you are. Like, you know, who's your family?
I have 2 kids.
Yeah. So they're
grown, let's say.
Let's say
married,
they're grown and
kids,
married and they have
grandkids.
kids of their own. Great. And their grandkids and stuff like that. So what we do is we look at the family aspect as well, and then decide, like, you know, who of your family would you like to bless?
All of them evenly.
If you want to bless them all, you want to bless your kids or your grandkids or all of them equally.
All of them equally.
The great thing about a Delaware statutory trust is you name them as your beneficiary, and if you pass away, you can say, I want equal share to go to each of those, and then they would all get equal share from that Delaware statutory trust.
Is that then paid out to them, or are they getting the cash flow, or they're getting the investment?
They can choose. They can choose to leave it in the Delaware statutory trust until the cycle runs out, and then, of course, once the cycle is done, they'll need to become an accredited investor, or upon death, they can actually take the funds out of that Delaware statutory trust. So,
okay. So then I could pass it on to my kids that way.
Yeah.
They get the cash flow.
Yeah.
And is it taxable to them?
No. And that's the great thing about the things that we're teaching is upon death, you get what's called a step-up cost basis. So you're basically, let's say you own real estate and then you pass away. That's why you don't want to gift your kids before you're gone the house that you own. And the reason why is you're basically giving them the burden of cost whenever you bought that versus what the value is now. So, and that's why we really sit down.
So if a person gives their kid the house, hey, I'm going to transfer this property to you before they pass away.
Don't do it.
Now, I bought it for $200. I'm giving it to them. It's worth $5.
Yeah.
At the time I transfer it to them, do they have to pay taxes on that difference?
Not
or when
on the time that you transfer it, but when they sell that property, they're going to pay the capital gains tax based on what you purchased that property.
Got it. So
for.
they would have to pay a capital gains bill on $300,000.
Correct.
But if I wait till I pass away,
yeah,
and then
upon death transfer is what we call it.
Upon death transfer,
right?
Then now they inherit this property at $500,000, free and clear of taxes, meaning
Correct.
that their value is $500. So if they sold it tomorrow, they don't have to pay taxes.
Correct.
And then if it goes up to $600,000 and then they sell it, then they would only pay capital gains taxes on that additional $100,000.
Correct.
Okay. So if my money is inside of that trust that you mentioned,
right,
and I pass away, does the cash flow that's coming, the monthly cash flow, however is cash flowing,
right,
do they have to pay taxes on the cash flow?
Correct. That's income.
That is income tax.
Right, income tax, which is much lower than capital gains tax. So capital gains tax in the United States is roughly 20%. And then if you have a gross adjusted income of more than $400,000, you add another 4% onto that. So in a year.
So it depends on whatever tax bracket they're in.
Correct.
Okay. So now let's just say I had $1 million in that trust.
Right.
Okay. and it's paying cash flow.
Yeah.
They're paying income taxes on the cash flow, correct?
Correct. Yep.
And when that cycle finishes and that $1 million gets dispersed back to them, that $1 million is not taxable to them.
No, it's
that's
not.
That's the basis.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Is it so? When it's in the trust, does the $1 million keep increasing in value, or is it just the cash flow?
No. So that's the great thing about a Delaware statutory trust is not only do you get that annual income, so off of $1 million, you should be getting somewhere right around like 50,000, if not more, a year.
So around 5%.
Around 5% is what we see on average. Now, not all Delaware statutory trusts are the same. They have different life cycles. So some are as short as like 3 years, some are as long as 10 years, but somewhere in between there, we say on average around 5. The only thing that a lot of investors don't like about a Delaware statutory trust is they have no say-so. Like there is no, I don't get to go visit my property and go check out the bathrooms or something in an Amazon warehouse. Like you are completely passive and you're riding, shotgun on this deal. But you get that great 5% return on investment. And, while the life of that trust is happening, that Delaware statutory trust, you're getting appreciation on the property. So, the people that invested in a Delaware statutory trust back in like 2019, 2020, like they're literally doubling their money because of how much appreciation they got in such a short amount of time.
Okay, so that $1 million by the time that site is $2 million.
Yeah.
And then I pass away.
And then you pass away.
The $2 million is now the new basis.
Is the new basis for your family, and they and that's the thing. It can be distributed evenly to your heirs.
Okay. So. And if it's still within the investment period, right? Then they can't get the $2 million.
Oh, they can. They can, like upon that person's death, they can. They can. They have a choice. They can either withdraw it immediately or leave it through and still get that income. Okay.
So I as the investor.
Yeah.
In that statutory trust, can I decide I want to pull out my money and go put it somewhere else, or do I have to wait till the end of that?
You have to wait till the end of the cycle.
Okay, so
you get a huge penalty.
So the investor has to wait,
right?
But if the investor was to pass away, the heirs do not have to wait.
Correct.
Okay,
and that's how it works.
Okay, so and said,
like I said, double check with financial planners and CPAs and
full
stuff
disclaimers.
Like
we're not tax professionals or financial advisors. This is all concepts.
This is what I like. This is what I've learned to be true. So,
I got it. Okay. And so if my property is performing at better than a 5% return,
right?
I'm cash flowing 7, 8, 9, 10% return on investment.
Right.
Does the trust, from a return on investment standpoint, I don't see a trust making sense. Is that correct?
I mean, I would say, if you're getting that great of a return, don't sell. Like, why I would be doing you a disservice if I told you to sell your property. Like, don't just put money in my pocket. Like, you're actually getting a good return on your investment. And I'll tell you that straight out. Like, don't sell this.
Okay.
Until the point where you're just, I don't want to sell this, or I don't want to own this anymore, like, at all.
So I'm done doing the work, or I'm not getting a good return.
Correct.
Those are the two times that you do that. Okay. And what other tax strategies do you have for those people that have built a good nest egg? Is that the main one that you say you would use?
I mean, that's what we do. I mean, we really look at the real estate aspect of, how is this real estate benefiting you? So, I mean, there's two types of properties. There's your personal property, which you should definitely have an emotional attachment to. And then there's your investment properties. And you should always be thinking in the mind of an investor, like, how can I maximize this? How can I make more money?
Sure.
Not that dad left this to me and, I need to hold on to this and I'm not making any money and I'm paying, absorbent amount of taxes on it. So.
Okay. And then let's go back to before we transition to the younger person starting off and building their wealth. In investment real estate,
right,
there's the appreciation, so people can understand that, right? It goes up in value, that increase in equity. If you were to sell, that's profit for you.
Correct.
Right, minus taxes.
Right.
Now, depreciation. For somebody watching this that doesn't know what depreciation is, Can you explain that to the person?
Yeah. So depreciation is the ability to actually take a tax deduction on your investment property. And the IRS says a depreciation of a property can be used over 27 and a half years, which I don't know why they said 27 and a half, but that's their code. And so the crazy thing is if you take depreciation, you're going to have to pay a recapture tax whenever you sell that property. Or if you don't take it, you're still going to have to pay a recapture tax, which people don't know that. Like, they have these investment properties. And so, you could have taken depreciation all up front, so you get a lot of money back at the beginning, or you can take it over the life of that 27 and a half years. But once that cycle ends, it's done. Like, you can't take it anymore. And so a lot of people, especially here in Austin, Texas, they bought investment properties like back in the 80s when it was dirt cheap, and they've just been holding on to these properties. Well, their depreciation has long gone.
Got it.
So when they sell that property, they're going to have to pay that depreciation recapture tax back.
Okay.
So
we have that $500,000 home or investment property.
Okay.
We take from depreciation, from what I understand about it.
Yeah.
It's not the land, it's the building.
Correct.
Okay, so
it's the assets, like, on the property.
Okay.
The improvements.
Right.
So
if when I bought the house for $200,
yeah,
the land was worth $50,
right,
and the building was worth $150,
yeah,
then I can depreciate the $150.
I believe that's
just the building.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so then I take that $150 and I divide it by 27 and a half, and that's roughly my.
That sounds right.
That's
to me.
roughly my depreciation.
I would double check with the CPA, but yes, I believe that is correct.
Okay, now I've done that. I've been in the property forever.
Yeah.
Now I sell it.
Okay.
And you're talking about the recapture tax.
Right.
So if I depreciated that property, all that depreciation, so I had my income minus my expenses, maintenance, etc., interest on my loan.
Yep.
I deduct all my expenses and I have that net profit.
Right.
I then minus depreciation from that, and now I have my actual profit, what I have to pay taxes on.
Yep.
Now I sell the house.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to all that depreciation that I took over that 30 years? I have to
pay back.
So when I sell it, it will be like a tax?
As far as I know, yes. And like I said, I would double check with the CPA on that. But yeah, you're gonna pay a recapture tax.
And when you do a 1031 exchange,
you don't like, as far as I know, you don't have to pay that. You are literally deferring all of your taxes, and that's why we call it swap until you drop, is because you are deferring the tax liabilities that you have until you're gone. So
not only did I defer the equity,
right,
but I also deferred the depreciation that I had taken.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so when a person's looking at a return on investment, there's other factors that they have to also consider.
Absolutely.
From a tax standpoint, in terms of, it's not just I have a $2,000 bill and I'm bringing in $3,000, so I'm making $1,000.
Right.
It's also what's the appreciation per year on that property on average. It's also what's the tax savings through depreciation, so that I can get a real actual asset performance result.
Exactly.
Okay. So I have appreciation.
Yep.
I have depreciation.
Yep.
And then you talked about some people take that depreciation, up front faster.
Correct.
From what I understand, that's done through a cost segregation study.
Correct.
And so you pay a firm that does those things. They'll come in and they'll look at, hey, your carpet wears faster, your floors wear faster than your ceiling does.
Exactly.
And so you can get more write-offs faster.
Correct.
Okay. So I have appreciation. I have depreciation. What was the other aspect that you talked about on the investment side? Was it more just the tax?
You got the leverage aspect as well. So the great thing about a DST is you don't have to get a loan for the properties that you're doing with the DST. It's because it's a non-recourse loan.
What is a non-recourse loan?
So basically, it's the DST as a whole is getting the loan for the property, not me as an individual. So we don't have to have like 200 individuals that's getting loans for approval for the loan.
Okay, got it. So the trust itself is what's getting approved.
Correct.
Okay. And then there's the benefit, again, that has managers and people that are managing that
property
investment.
management companies and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. Any other wealth strategies that you do for people that are older that have investments? Anything else, or is, again?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of the stuff also that we do is making sure that families don't fight when mom and dad's gone, like when an individual goes away. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sure that is a big challenge for people.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's the thing. We've all heard of the stories of, brothers and sisters, family fighting over what, grandma and grandpa left for the family.
Sure.
And so our goal is how do we create that plan so that way, fights don't happen between families? Because trust me, the biggest thing that happens, who gets the money, is lawyers whenever families fight over what mom and dad left them. So we make sure that there's a plan in place that, so a trust. A lot of people don't know what the difference between a will and a trust is. And a will is public, is going to go through the probate system. Anybody can contest it. A trust is literally an instruction manual that I left for my heirs to pull off the shelf, that's created by an attorney, and everybody follows the directions of what my wishes were. Whenever.
There's no change in it. There's no
nothing,
arguing.
Yeah. Correct.
You're getting 20%, 20,
however they
40.
want it. Yeah, I mean,
and that's what it is.
That's what it is.
And it takes off of that person. If somebody's getting more,
right,
it takes it off of them in terms of having to argue for that.
Exactly. And this is and that's the thing. Like, we have, as a society, we don't talk about money with our family, and we're one of the few countries that do this. And we really believe that there should be a little bit more conversations about how I want to leave my legacy to my family.
Yeah, nobody likes talking about death.
Nobody does. But I mean, that's the inevitable. We are all facing it no matter what. It's going to happen to each and every one of us no matter what. So it's just a matter of when.
Got it.
And so
you make sure that person, if they don't have an estate planning attorney, right, then you help them,
correct,
to have a conversation with one,
right, so that
you're creating their real estate plan with also the living trust.
Exactly. And the also another difference between a will and a trust is a trust is a little more expensive up front than a will is. But the thing is you're going to save your family so much more money because they're not having to pay lawyers to go through the probate system.
Hundreds of dollars per hour.
I mean, we're talking, you're going to save your family thousands and headaches fighting over,
of course,
that. So.
And the time.
The time
process. We had a Will come out. He's an estate planning attorney.
Yeah.
And we did a show on that, which is a great, if you guys haven't seen that one, it's a great episode on the difference between trusts and wills. And why almost everybody that has assets needs a living trust.
Absolutely, 100%.
So let's transition real quick. And I know that your specialty is more on transferring of wealth and tax strategies. If somebody's younger and I'm watching this,
absolutely,
right? Yeah. What should I be looking at? Real estate's so expensive right now. It's interest rates are 6.5%, 7.5%.
Yeah.
What advice do you have to a younger person that's saying, I want to buy real estate, I want to build real estate investments? I understand real estate's a great investment opportunity.
It is.
How do I go about it? How do I start? Where do I start?
It's kind of a big question there. And that's the thing is that real estate, do it today. Because, the as Gary Keller says, the best time to plant a tree is 100 years ago. And, the second best time to do that is today. So, you don't have to buy real estate here in Austin, unless you want to buy it as your primary residence. And as a young person that's looking to build wealth, let's say you don't have a home, you've been renting, you're buying something, you're just buying it for somebody else. So in Central Texas right now, it's a buyer's market. So you can get the home of your dreams today and not have to fight over a bunch of people to try and get into the home that you want. Interest rates aren't going to come down. Like, we know that we're just in a cycle, it goes like this on a regular basis. Right now, we're kind of hitting near the very bottom, but we're about to start coming back up. So the Fed's already talking about reducing interest rates in September, so that's a month away. Once that happens, we're going to start seeing, the floodgates open, because there's a lot of pent-up buying angst right now. A really great strategy as a young person is buy a primary residence for yourself and do what's called house hacking. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, but let's say I don't.
If you don't, it's basically I own a house and I'm going to rent out my bedrooms, so that way those bedrooms are basically paying the mortgage, and then I have a very leftover amount that I'm paying towards the mortgage and or the bills, the utilities.
Got it.
And then using that to leverage yourself, because once you start having enough income coming in off of that, you save up, and then in maybe a year or two, you're buying your next house. And then you rent out the room that you were living in, and now you've got a income property. That was your primary residence, and you're buying another property. And so you can do that. Also, another thing that I would recommend doing is buying a duplex, because you can claim that duplex as your primary residence and have an income property on the other side. And the great thing is that when you're purchasing that property, the appraiser is going to look at the income that's coming in off that other side as giving you more buying power to purchase that. So, we're all about, like I said at the beginning, building, protecting, and transferring wealth. That's part of the building part of it. So you want to look at it as, how can I purchase something and then help me to catapult or springboard me into bigger and better things.
Sure. So, yeah, that's a lot of people don't consider buying a duplex because they're not thinking that they could afford to own investment property.
Exactly.
Without understanding that there's an income coming in on that that can help them qualify.
Exactly.
Because they're only liable for, that other portion per se.
Right.
Well, thank you for coming on, man.
Absolutely.
This has been great for a lot of people. I'm sure people are going to be like, this was very detailed. There's a lot to learn.
There is.
So thank you for your time today.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Jodi, in the background, dishing some support there. Guys, I hope you found some value. We also did a great podcast with Jesse Locken on looking into purchasing real estate, and if you want to know more on the loan side of it and where do I start, how do I start, it's a great other one to watch, or the one on living trust and wills. So thanks for watching, and take care, everybody. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.